Okay. RIP, the uncanny business of dead celebrity endorsements on social media. The dead are more alive than ever. And he's not talking about all the ones voting Democrat either. Thanks to social media and inherited intellectual property rights. Yeah, I've talked about that before. That's something that really needs to change. Stars of the past enjoy digital immortality, including icons including Elvis, Marilyn Monroe, and John Lennon. Commie. Fuck him. Remain active on blue checkmark social media accounts that are often controlled by for-profit corporations, which don't require a family tie to the deceased. Marilyn Monroe passed away more than 60 years ago. With more than 1.7 million followers on Instagram, she's also one of the top social media influencers today. Damn. This is strange, but dead celebrity influencers are not uncommon. They are prominently visible on social media, sporting blue check marks as if they never passed away. In some cases, these accounts are controlled by direct family members who work hard to keep the spirit of their loved ones alive. However, others are controlled by corporations that have nothing to do with the person they represent. Well, are we really surprised? I mean, assuming you didn't already know this. So I think we'd probably already seen it. Maybe not of all of them, but at least of some of them we've seen it. This issue was highlighted recently by Andrew Gilden, who works as an assistant professor of law at Willamette University. I'm not familiar with that one. In an academic article titled Endorsing After Death, Gilden gives an overview of the legal aspects and challenges that arise. The article shows that, in some cases, there's an uncomfortable side to the digital immortality of dead celebrities, especially when they begin to promote products or get politically involved. Yeah, that's a problem with the fucking celebrities that are alive, for God's sake. Let the dead rest, people. Shit. For example, over the past year, several dead influencers have promoted face mask sales. Oh, God. Throughout the pandemic, Whitney Houston and other deceased celebrities such as Tupac Shakur, don't tell that to Kamala Harris, Bob Marley, Bob Ross, and Jimi Hendrix actively promoted branded face masks through their official checkmark verified Instagram pages, Gilden writes. Shit. Bob Ross, the joy of painting. Oh my goodness. Other deceased celebrities got involved in polarized debates or political campaigns. Marilyn Monroe, Muhammad Ali, Elvis Presley, and many others joined the hashtag Blackout Tuesday protests, for example, while Ronald Reagan and Tom Petty supported Trump's re-election campaign. Well, I mean, I'm not sure about Tom Petty, but I should think that Ronald Reagan probably would have endorsed Trump if he was alive. Anyway, I mean, he was sort of like Trump. He wasn't as successful as Trump. Yeah, he got reelected. Yes, of course. Yeah, they didn't. They didn't try to steal the election that time. Anyway, but Trump got more done in the first half or something of his first term than Reagan did in both terms of his. So objectively, Trump accomplished more. Uh, I am Side note: I would personally rank Trump as number three on all-time best presidents. Uh, I have to give the first slot to Washington. You know, first president, could have been king, turned it down, was smart enough to warn everybody, don't form political parties. But unfortunately, they didn't listen to him. And of course, then Andrew Jackson, who went farther than Trump because he abolished the central bank. All right. We don't always know the intentions of the people involved, which may be honorable. I wouldn't count on it. What we do know, however, is that the people whose names were used had no say in the matter. They're dead, after all. Well, I mean, obviously, that you don't have their, you know, frozen and then revived heads or whatever, like in Futurama, but somehow what we're seeing right now is probably an indication of how that future is going to play out. It's like you will have the heads in jars, basically, except it won't just be a head in a jar. It'll be the full person. They'll be brought back as a hologram or some, or maybe an android or some shit, and people will act like they're the real thing. It'll, assuming we don't blow ourselves, up before then. Anyway, uh, it can be awkward to see accounts posting messages in the name of dead people. No shit. Who perhaps would have never agreed with the thing being supported or promoted. Mm-hmm. Many of the estates that own the rights may strive to do what's best, but for who? Should that be for whom? Not sure. It's an uneasy topic that, in the legal sense, is controlled by intellectual property law, which desperately needs to be different. After someone passes away, the rights are typically passed on to direct family or friends, unless agreed otherwise. However, after a few decades have passed, things can look quite different. Gilden illustrates this by using Marilyn Monroe as an example. Monroe's assets, no jokes, are owned by people organizations that have no ties to her whatsoever. Marilyn Monroe died in 1962, and her will devised 75% of the residue of her estate, which included her intellectual property rights, to her acting teacher, Lee Strasberg. Okay. Which then passed to Strasberg's wife upon his death in 1982. The remaining 25% went to Mariana Chris, Monroe's psychiatrist. Oh, dear. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about Marilyn Monroe, so I've never looked into, what all problems she had. But if she had a psychiatrist that she left some of her rights to, it's like, I think probably she had some problems, some severe problems. Who passed her portion to the Anna Freud Center, which she died in 1980. God. Strasberg became the administrator of the Monroe estate from 1989 until 2001, when the estate finally closed. At that point, the estate transferred all its assets to a newly formed company, Marilyn Monroe LLC, which was owned by Miss Strasberg and the Freud Center until 2010. In 2010, the Authentic Brands Group purchased a controlling interest, and later the entire interest, in Marilyn Monroe LLC and established a new subsidiary, the Estate of Marilyn Monroe LLC, to manage the assets it had acquired. This is insane. This is fucking insane. There shouldn't be, there should be, I don't know which way it should go. Either no rights or all rights or something. It's like either dead people should be basically in the public domain and anybody can use their likeness for anything and fuck you, or it should be maybe the reverse, which is, oh, they're dead. That means no one has the right to say that they can appear in something, and therefore nobody can give approval, and therefore the automatic answer is no. You can't use their likeness in something because you don't have the rights to do it, and you can't get them because that person's dead and therefore can't consent. It probably should be one of those two options. Either an absolute everybody can use it, or an absolute nobody can fucking use them, and shut the fuck up about it. Monroe LLC is the legal rights holder, and it survived a challenge in court. That said, it is safe to say that the people controlling the social media accounts have no idea what Monroe would have thought on certain topics. Yeah. Like her immortal online alter ego, she may have indeed been a vocal supporter of Black Lives Matter and a staunch promoter of Walmart perfumes, Zales jewelry, and teeth whitening solutions. But what if she wasn't? Yeah, what if she had some sense, huh? Most people don't even consider the possibility that they are looking at a corporate account that monetizes intellectual property. They just like Marilyn Monroe, and probably white teeth too. Yeah. Um, Not all commercial promotions are equally appreciated by everyone, though. Every now and then, there's a critical note. In his paper, Gilden highlights some examples, including a Bob Ross follower who didn't like the face mask promotion we showed earlier. Yeah, I mean, no, that well, obviously, I'm against the mask no matter what. I don't care if they do. I mean, there's plenty of indication that they don't actually do anywhere near as much good as the people who want you to fucking wear them would like you to think. But even if they were 100% effective, I still don't believe that there should be any kind of fucking mandate forcing you to wear the fucking things. And that includes there shouldn't be businesses that are like, oh, you have to wear a face mask. I mean, obviously that's basically just the way that the government gets around things, is that, the government kind of has to still sometimes acknowledge that, well, we can't force everybody to wear a mask because, that really kind of is not constitutional, among other things. It's fucking insane is what it is. But then, well, we'll just tell businesses that, since we've managed to get it required that they have to have a business license and all this other shit, which frankly shouldn't be a thing either for the most part, will threaten the businesses that, well, you have to have these regulations. And because you're a private company, you can get away with it. But if you don't do it, then, we will fuck you in the ass like you wouldn't believe. No lube. No lube at all. And so you get the private corporations to do the enforcing for you. That's how, that's fascism. That's fascism. The left always complains about fascism, and they fail to realize that they're the ones primarily who are promoting fascism in this day and age. Of course, they always have. I mean, like I said, Hitler, leftist. Sorry, this is a socialist. They're leftists. Fucking neo-Nazis are socialists too. They're leftists. No matter what, I don't care whether they claim to vote Republican. It doesn't matter. They're still fucking leftists. Or, when you look at the actual beliefs of an awful lot of politicians, including, many, the vast majority, maybe fuck near all at this point, of the elected Republicans, they're essentially just a bunch of fucking leftists too. They're just not as far to the left. Anyway. This seems very non-Bob Ross. Yeah. Profiteering during a pandemic using a dead man's likeness, the commenter wrote. When we browsed through the profiles of several dead celebrities, we saw similar critiques. For example, when Elvis promoted a bottle of Elvis-branded wine on Instagram. For God's sake, did he even drink wine? Exploitation at its most disgustingly best. Have respect. Mitima, whatever, replied. Well, I mean, there were plenty of drugs that he took, right? So, those are illegal, so I don't guess you can really brand with Elvis on those. But I mean, yeah, well. Although, to be honest, I would find a nice, tastefully done wine label is vastly less offensive than like the masks or any other shit like that, or or weighing in on politics. It's like, oh, well, it's Elvis brand wine. It's like, okay, I mean, there's an argument made for that to be not a thing either, but it's a fucking lot better than many things they could be doing with him. In the future, if it hasn't already transpired in the future, at some point, if things continue to go the way they are, at least, you probably have like Elvis sex dolls or something. And hey, there's probably some women would be like, oh, please, and there probably already is a Marilyn Monroe sex doll. I don't maybe not officially licensed, but probably exists someplace. Um, in his article, Gilden concludes that the dead have never been more alive. And again, that's totally true. Of course, part of that is because they all voted for Joe Biden. And that's actually true. I mean, who was it? Was it it was some was it a boxer or a baseball star, somebody or other, who I think was actually Republican in life, and they discovered that, oh yeah, he voted for Joe Biden. It's like he's been dead for a decade or two or however long, but he voted for Joe Biden. I mean, that happened. That fucking happened. Anyway, you also had cats voting for Biden. Um, the digital world allows their online presence to continue, but that means they are entirely dependent on the people who control their estates. Yeah, it's, this is something everyone should be aware of, but celebrities in particular. Do you really want to promote products or endorse politicians decades after you're gone? Well, I certainly wouldn't, but then again, I'm not a celebrity. I can, probably rest assured more or less that I'm never going to be uh, anybody who, nobody is going to want, I'm never going to be a big enough name, et cetera, et cetera. Nobody's going to want or care about getting my endorsement on something. And so, like many ordinary people, I can simply relax knowing that, well, there'll be no such battle. There'll be no risk of anybody, having me selling, a wine or, much worse, a politician after I'm dead. Um, but like I said, it does seem more than a little bit ghoulish, doesn't it? I mean, even when you're talking about celebrities, it's like they're dead. What the fuck? Even if the people who benefit from it are complete strangers, yeah, definitely not. If that's the case, I should think. Right now, the law has little notion of dignity. No shit. Or as Gilden puts it, the result is a system of posthumous endorsement that pays little heed to the dignity of the deceased or to the desire for surviving fans to maintain emotional and psychological bonds with them. Only if posthumous endorsements were made more transparent, were the result of deliberate decision making, and were entrusted to individuals closely connected to the decedent, could they constitute part of a thriving digital afterlife. Yeah, and also it's worth pointing out that as soon as somebody has passed out of living memory, as soon as there's no people who knew them personally left, then there's nobody who can say what they who can even give realistic input on what they would or would not have liked. And yet, if you have this system of allowing for this shit to happen, it'll never end. It'll never end. As a matter of fact, it'll just get worse the longer they've been in the grave. In any case, I'll never look at these accounts again without wondering who's running them and why. Well, I mean, I don't look at those accounts, and probably would never be all that interested in them in the first place. But I gotta say, I would never have looked at a Bob Ross account or Elvis or whatever the fuck else. It's like I wouldn't have looked at these accounts and been like and been like, oh, it's just the digital afterlife of so and so. It's like, no, I mean, it strike me as odd to think of Marilyn Monroe being on having any kind of social media presence. I mean, some company with her name on it maybe, but like some company with pretending to be her. I mean, like I said, I'm not surprised really, but at the same time, it is kind of surprising because it's like, why would anybody do that? Why would I don't know. It's just really fucking weird. I mean, it makes me wonder if there's a Gene Roddenberry account out there, like some sort of official estate of Gene Roddenberry account. It's just, and it doesn't say estate, it just says Gene Roddenberry and is pretending to be him. And it's like, God, I don't know. It's awful. It's an awful idea, and there's too many um there's I don't know. There's too many things like this with regards to intellectual property. So much of it is so fucked up. I doubt that we'll ever see any legitimate, any. I doubt we'll ever see sensical decisions being taken with regards to it. But I guess until we're also dead, we can we can continue to hope that eventually they'll somebody will decide to address it and fix the fucking laws so that they're not so creepy. All right. Until the next one.